UFC 302 Makhachev versus Poirier takes place this weekend, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main events, giving my prediction and breakdown for every single fight on the card, starting with the early prelim opener of Andre Lima versus a man by the name of Nyamjargal Tumendemberel is the name of this guy. He was on Road to UFC. I'm never going to say his name again for the rest of this fight breakdown. He has just stepped up on short notice, I guess. Just in case he hasn't and the UFC stat page is making a mistake, I also think that Andre Lima would beat Mitch Raposo, who was also a step-up opponent to take on Andre Lima. So I'm picking Andre Lima regardless of who shows up against him, unless they I don't know, unless they put Pantoja in there on a day's notice. I'm not sure. Andre Lima's going to win this fight against the guy that I just named, Nyamjargal Tumendemberel. He's going to beat him. This guy's called Mr. Knockout. He fancies himself a striker. He has got some grappling ability as well, but we've seen the takedown defense of Andre Lima. It's good. There is ability to sort of outwork him and just put that sort of pace on him where he constantly has to defend takedowns. But he does the fundamentally correct things to stop himself from ending up in trouble whenever someone does try and take him down. And he's got good, strong get-ups as well. Knows how to get his base under him. And I'm going to go with Andre Lima here. I'm going with Andre Lima against this Mr. Knockout guy. He went to a split decision against a absolute can on Road to UFC. A lot of the people on Road to UFC are absolute cans, and then we see someone look good on there and all of a sudden they turn into another Rongju or someone like that who ends up not really performing in the UFC. So I'm going to go with Andre Lima. Kickboxing background, taking on a guy who likes himself as a knockout artist, who's a bit of a schmuck. I'm going to go with Andre Lima. And the guy's taking it on short notice. So, yeah. Even if it's Mitch Raposo, I still think Lima beats him. We move on. Mitch Raposo lost to Jake Hadley. How bad do you have to be? I thought he was going to be a champ. Joselyne Edwards versus Ailin Perez. I'm predicting stiffness in this one. I don't know. This is the Battle of the Bundas. We've got Joselyne Edwards, Ailin Perez. Who's going to shake it better? Who's going to bewitch the judges more by showing off their jiggle physics? Who knows? Both lacking in the opposite end of their... better coming than going. Or better going than coming, I should say. The pair of them. All good, though. Joselyne Edwards, Ailin Perez. Handsome women. I'm going to go with Ailin Perez here. Purely based on the fact that Ailin Perez dominantly defeated a opponent that they share in common, which is an opponent by the name of Lucy Pudilova. She actually lost the third round of that fight, but in that fight, she actually had one of her eyes completely swollen shut. So she still was able to out-grapple Lucy Pudilova in the first two rounds of that fight and completely dominate her in the grappling is what I'm trying to get at here. And Joselyne Edwards also fought Lucy Pudilova. I thought she could have won the fight on damage, but she did get out-grappled really easily in two of the rounds. In round one, and I believe in round three as well. She got out-grappled in those rounds. Maybe it was round two. I'm not even sure what rounds they were. I think it was round three. There was two of the rounds where she got clearly out-grappled by Lucy Pudilova, and Lucy Pudilova out-grappled Joselyne Edwards. Ailin Perez dominantly out-grappled Lucy Pudilova. I'm going to use, I know people don't like MMA math, but come on. There's not much else to go on here. Yes, Joselyne Edwards a little bit bigger, a little bit rangier. I think she's yet to beat a good fighter in the UFC. Same as Ailin Perez, to be fair, but she out-grappled someone easily who easily out-grappled Joselyne Edwards. Surely she's got better grappling than Joselyne Edwards. I'm just going to go off of that. And they used the same takedowns in both of the fights. You know, the same takedowns that Perez got on Pudilova were the same takedowns that Pudilova got on Edwards. So I'm going to have to go with Ailin Perez. We move on. Gall versus Bassil Hafez. Now, I want to ask some people a question. How are certain prospects expected to go something like 18-0 before they can get signed to the UFC, or 15-1? They got to put together an insane record on a regional career. But Gall is still signed to the UFC. But you guys couldn't keep Mike Perry around, the guy that beat him. You cut him. So you cut Mike Perry from the UFC for not performing well enough after he beat Gall, and then continue to keep Gall. I guess they got to find a win for Bassil Hafez. Bassil Hafez taken a long time since his debut to come back. You know what I'm saying? We'll see what version of him shows up this time. I'll be honest with you. Looked great against JDM, though, and looked game. You know what I mean? I like that mentality that he had. Even though he clearly lost the JDM fight on damage, fucking clearly. But some reason for certain fights, people just completely ignore the damage-based scoring system. I don't know why they do that for JDM, but they always do it for JDM. But yeah, he clearly lost, but he had a great showing and he had great takedowns. Was JDM pulling guillotines to end up in a lot of them? Yes, but early on in the fight, there was no guillotine as the reason why he ended up in a takedown. Hafez went right at him and right across the octagon and just started working a grappling game. So I like the mentality of Bassil Hafez. A lesser fighter would have shied away and just let JDM get another highlight reel on them. And he gamed up. You know what I mean? He showed up, gritted down, and pushed a good fight against JDM. I'm going to go with him over Mickey Gall. I mean, he had great chin. JDM was putting some massive shots on him in rounds 2 and 3. He stayed in there. He kept throwing back. He was catching JDM with some decent shots in the first round as well, up against the cage. And yeah, he just looked tough. If JDM ain't finishing you on the feet, I don't think Mickey Gall is. If you can take down JDM, I think you can take down Mickey Gall as well. So I'm going to trust in Bassil Hafez in all areas that this fight could go. I am worried what version of him shows up, because as a man, he is a little bit suspect looking when it comes to, you know, some kind of agency that would test for something. And they had no tests done on this man when he first made his debut against JDM. Not a single one. So how could they possibly know if he was clean or not? UFC world champions making a return have to do a 6-month USADA window, but a short notice backup fighter from another promotion doesn't have to do any of that coming into the UFC. So we'll see if Hafez looks the same. If he does, it's a good sign for the future of his career. If he doesn't, certain people look a lot better on the regional scene. That's all I'm going to say. We move on. Niko Price versus Alex Morono. Got to go with Alex Morono here. No offense to Niko Price, but the way you got knocked out against Robbie Lawler looked scripted. Like, maybe that it was scripted, and now we're going to be like, okay, that one was scripted. They gave Lawler the walk-off KO to, like, the weakest punches we've ever seen him throw in his entire career. Even Nick Diaz was eating more than that. But he held back a lot against Nick Diaz. Another weird one in Lawless. There's been some weird ones in the UFC. But no, he clipped Niko with some good shots, put him away. But I think that's the problem with Niko Price right now. We're starting to not trust in his chin. Before Niko Price, you know, he could get wobbled, he could get put away. But you know, he'd still be in the fight. You know, he'd still be dangerous. Against Tim Means, he got wobbled and then put Tim Means away. He had a good fight with Michal Pereira. This is the thing with MMA. Now Pereira's smoking every middleweight known to man. But there was a time when Niko Price was walking down Michal Pereira in the 3rd round and really closely nearly getting a 10-8 round against him in the 3rd as well. He was beating up on Michal Pereira, and it looked like it was starting to build into a 10-8 round before the bell sounded. So, yeah. I don't know how that works, but that's MMA. It's a weird one. I'm going to go with Niko. I'm going to go with Alex Morono, though. He didn't even look good in his last fight either, but he did all right against Buckley for the first 2 rounds in hindsight, right? He held his own against Buckley in the first 2 rounds. Made it a bit of a nothing bout. Didn't look great against Court McGee, but something you can say about Court McGee is that he's still tough. He's really strong. He's really durable as a fighter. And he's very composed, Court McGee. He does the basic fundamentals quite well. Whereas Niko Price, he doesn't do fundamentals well. He's a wild guy. It's finish or be finished. And when a fighter like that loses their chin, it's like if I told you Yuri's starting to lose his chin. Imagine Yuri Praska losing his chin finally. You know what I mean? At whatever age you'll be when it starts going. 34. I don't know, dude. It seems like Yuri's losing his chin. I bet you night and day, a lot of people, if they start to notice Yuri's chin going a bit, they'll be like, I ain't picking him ever again. You know what I mean? Because he needs to take a beating to win. I don't think Niko Price is going to win this one. I'm not saying it's because he's chinny and he's going to get chinned. I just think that Morono's been more consistent. He's been more active. He's had much better performances. He's staying active as well. His last fight was 2 months ago. Fight before that, 6 months ago. Fight before that, 5 months ago. 5 months again. So he's fought quite a few times since 2022. Whereas Niko Price hasn't been in there for a long time. Had a grappling match that he lost by Suloev's stretch to Pat Sabatini pretty much immediately into the contest. And then hasn't fought in MMA since 2023 July. So, yeah, I'm not going to trust him to win this one. And he's lost his last 2 MMA fights by TKO. I'm going to side with... He made Cerrone look like he still belonged at welterweight. So I feel like his best days are behind him. Love Niko Price, but I'm going to go with Alex Morono here. Morono by decision. TKO maybe, but I'll say decision. We move on. Up the card, Philip Rowe versus Jake Matthews. Here's my underdog pick of the card. I'm actually going to go with Philip Rowe. I think he's underrated. I think, as much as it's horrible to say this out loud here, Neil Magny actually is a test for welterweights. Which is crazy because normally you're just like, all right, who's going to beat Magny next? You know what I mean? That's mainly the narrative whenever you see Magny take a fight. But he actually is a bit of a test because we've seen Mike Mallet fail against Neil Magny. We've seen a bunch of fighters fail to beat Neil Magny at welterweight. There's a reason why he's still ranked at the top of the division. Like, he would be gone otherwise, right? But he beats a Max Griffin. He beats a Daniel Rodriguez. He beats a Philip Rowe by very close split decision. He beats Mike Mallet. Fumbles it there, does Mallet. He beats Jeff Neal. Like, he can win. Beats Lawler. Beats Rocco Martin. Beats Li Jingliang. Either way, I am going to go with Philip Rowe. I don't think Jake Matthews' style is good against a taller, rangier opponent. I think that's a massive, massive problem for Jake Matthews. A lot of his moves that he does very well are very short range, tight hooks and uppercuts and shots like that. He doesn't necessarily have a good jab. He doesn't have a good straight right hand really either. It's not like he finds shots at range. Like, he's not going to catch a guy leaning away from him. Like, he's going to catch a guy in the pocket like he did Andre Fialho, like he did other fighters before. But when you look back at Jake Matthews' wins, tell me when I read out a name that you respect as a good win. Darius Flowers, maybe one of the worst fighters in the UFC. Andre Fialho. Welcome to the club. You KO'd him. At first, we thought, oh my God, Jake Matthews is going to be a world champ. Look what he just did to Fialho. Because Fialho gave Michal Pereira a tough fight. Again, how does that make sense if he's smoking every middleweight known to man? It's all good. So yeah, he beat Andre Fialho. He beat Diego Sanchez by decision. Didn't even make that look good. But then again, so did Michal Pereira. But then Michal Pereira smokes every middleweight. It's almost like people improve as fighters, Guru. You need to fucking understand that, finally. Emil Meek, not a good win. Rostam Akman, not a good win. And all these decisions. I'm going to go with Philip Rowe. I think he's had more impressive performances. I think he's proved a bit more of his game. I like his grappling as well. A lot of times, Jake Matthews, what approach could he have to this fight? I don't see him outstriking Philip Rowe at range. I really don't. And I also don't, if he wants to shoot the grappling, which is a smart move because he's going up against a taller opponent. He's not used to that. He's not very good at fighting that style of opponent. If he wants to mix in some grappling, Philip Rowe's a really good grappler. He actually is a grappling enthusiast, I would describe him as, because I constantly see him losing in these grappling tournaments. Now, as much as it's like mean to say, I see him losing, why are you bringing up all his losses? He actively competes in grappling. He's got good grappling credentials. He's got good grappling technique and fundamentals. He goes up against Craig Jones and gets flying triangled. You know what I mean? He goes up against some other guys in grappling and ends up going to a majority decision or a decision loss. But then he fights Gordon Ryan in grappling. You know what I mean? So I don't think there's going to be anything Jake Matthews got to make this guy worry on the ground. And I don't think Jake Matthews is a well-built fighter to deal with people on the feet. I think this is a recipe for a Philip Rowe knees in the clinch type fight. If he can eventually break down Matthews to that level. He's really good at the clinch. He's really good at finding body shots on shorter opponents as well. We've seen that from Philip Rowe. So I'm going to go Philip Rowe. I think he's a little underrated. I don't think he's the best fighter in the world. I don't think he's going to go on to be anything great. But I do think he's a little bit above Jake Matthews. Just barely. So I'm going to go with him as an underdog here. We move on. Grant Dawson versus Joe Solecki. I've got to go with Grant Dawson. A lot of things to consider here, about Joe Solecki. He's coming in off a KO loss, and it's a bad KO loss as well because he got slam KO'd. So it's not even something where, I got KO'd, but I'll learn from it. It's not like he got chinned by a left hook because his right hand was down, and now he's going to drill keeping his right. He took all of the concussion for none of the lesson. That's the way I see that. What lesson can he learn from that? Oh, maybe I won't do any jiu-jitsu off of my back ever again. Because he got slam KO'd out of like trying to play jiu-jitsu off of his back. So yeah, Drakkar close. Smashed him. He took Carl Deaton to the second round. He is good, you know. He is actually quite good, Joe Solecki. He's a very underrated guy, but there's certain people, yeah. They're just not meant to be fighters. Michael Chiesa is one of these people. There's many other examples for these people as well. Paul Craig is one of these people. And what happens is, when you get these people, and Grant Dawson might be one of these people, honestly, but he's a little bit more fluid on the feet. Certain people, they get to be a warrior through the invention of jiu-jitsu. Paul Craig, as I just said, whoever I listed before that as well. But Joe Solecki is one of these people. But these guys who never should be in a combat situation have learned to like sneak in through jiu-jitsu. And then they get found out. I feel like Solecki's one of those fighters where he just doesn't have the ability to inflict pain on anyone on the feet. Grant Dawson's a little similar, but I like Grant Dawson's stand-up game a little bit more. And I do like his grappling game over Joe Solecki's. And normally if you got two grapplers and one of them, you can negate the grappling a little bit easier. You know what I mean? If you've both got the grappling credentials, it's a little bit more difficult for one to dominate. So I think if it does get left on the feet, and all the moments that this will be on the feet, it will be controlled by Grant Dawson. A little chinny. Joe Solecki, again, doesn't have the ability to inflict pain on a human being. Same as Paul Craig and some of these other guys as well. No, I don't know why I'm ripping on Paul Craig. It's just a great example. Michael Chiesa is the perfect example. Another jiu-jitsu guy that's snuck in. You know what I mean? That should never have been in any combat ever in his life because he fucking closes his eyes when he's punching 2 decades into his career. Let's focus on Chiesa slander. Paul Craig's the boy. You know what I mean? We ain't going to slander him. Joe Solecki, he's going to lose. I'm pointing at people on the screen now. He's going to lose. I'm going to go with Grant Dawson. A little bit more fluid on the feet. On the back foot, low kicks, teeps, front kicks to the face. Little things like that just go a long way in terms of keeping a guy a bit more jittery than you when you're both trying to close that void. I've been watching some Demetrius Johnson videos. Grant Dawson wins, in my opinion. We move by decision, 29-28. Roman Kopylov versus Cesar Almeida. Now, this is a tricky one, yeah, because Cesar Almeida's pulling it off, okay? But the way he's pulling it off is not like, wow, he's so great at range, he's pulling it off. And he's not punishing people on the feet the way I want him to. The only people he's punishing on the feet are people who are making their debut in MMA and people that are 5-28 as a professional record. These are the people that he has KOs against. Another guy making their debut in the sport. But when he fought a guy on the Contender Series that was 9-1, that mixed in some grappling, but not too effectively. It's not like he's outstriking them, but he's not, oh my God, you can't be on the feet with this guy type of outstriking him. And I need him to win early, in my opinion, to beat Kopylov. Now, if you grapple with Kopylov, he will gas out. But if you allow him to strike, he will ease into the fight. He'll start getting loose. The shots will start flying off the shoulders a little bit easier. And I think if anyone's got the option to grapple, it is him. I'm going to go with Roman Kopylov. More experienced. Understands the spotlight of a pay-per-view a little bit better than, Cesar Almeida does. Cesar Almeida's a good pick. I'm not going to take away a pick of Cesar Almeida here. But Roman Kopylov, I think, is more proven in the UFC so far. And I do think he'll be able to finish Cesar Almeida on the feet. I actually think he'll be able to do this on the feet. Very savvy. And I'm not seeing any finishes in the first round against anyone legit in Cesar Almeida's career. So, it's not like the guy on the Contender Series just couldn't be on the feet with him in round 1 or he'd get slept. No, it's not that level of striking. It's efficient, good kickboxing with good takedown defense. I don't think he's going to finish Kopylov, and if he doesn't, I think he'll lose a decision. So I'm going to go Kopylov by decision, working into the fight as it goes on, starting to work the body a little bit on Cesar Almeida, and maybe mixing in some grappling as well. Out of the two of them, he is more likely to do that because he has been working on that part of his game before the Anthony Hernandez fight that I picked Anthony Hernandez for. But I'm assuming since the Anthony Hernandez fight, this guy was like, okay, I need to grapple a bit more. So I'm going to go with Kopylov. We move on. Randy Brown versus Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. I'm going to go with Randy Brown. I really like this matchup for him. And I'm going to tell you why. Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos is like a perfect guy to beat someone short or his frame that wants to either grapple with him or throw a ton of kicks. And if you look back in Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos' career, you'll find that style of fighter is the one that he usually beats. Renat Fakretinov is shorter, stockier, his type of frame fighter that wants to grapple, and he manages to nearly finish him in the third, but for some reason, whenever fighters hurt someone to the body, all of their follow-up shots have ground and pounded to the head, rather than just one more to the body. Learn from Khalil Roundtree, not in the way of getting performance-enhancing drugs in your system and getting pulled out of UFC 303, but learn to target the body once your opponent is hurt to the body. Don't hurt someone to the body, Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos, and then throw 50 punches to their head in ground and pound. They're hurt to the body, not their head. But, you know, they've only been doing it for 3 decades, so I'm just an armchairing back here, telling them what to do. Backseat fighter. I'm going to go with, but you look back for his other opponents, Abubakar Nurmagomedov, shitty grappler, his frame, his size. Benoit Saint-Denis, good grappler, but a grappler. And someone his frame and his size that keeps his hands low, that likes to get scrappy, and likes to throw a lot of body kicks and stuff like that. And then you look at, I feel like the taller, rangier opponent are the people that are going to give him problems. That's my takeaway from this. I really think that. The taller, rangier opponent. Zaleski dos Santos has really good kicks. Don't think he's going to be landing any wheel kicks or head kicks here on Randy Brown, who's a lot taller than him. He might go for low kicks. I don't think it's going to be smart for an older fighter to invest in a calf kick heavy game plan or a shin-to-shin level game plan. I don't think it's necessarily smarter for the older, more beaten up and worn down fighter and more injury-prone fighter to be doing that. And I think this is Randy Brown, who's going to have a much happier time in boxing range against Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos here. And you've also got to talk about the fact that Zaleski dos Santos is on borrowed time in his career. You know what I mean? Like, when does the drop-off happen? When do we see him all of a sudden go from the Barboza that fought Yusuf to the Barboza that fought Lerone Murphy, where there's just a night and day difference? They ain't got it no more. 37 years of age. I'm going to trust in Randy Brown. I'm going to trust in him to make the improvements. I don't think there's any shame in a loss to JDM as a pure striker. I don't think there's any shame in that at all. And I think he can flick at range and find his heavy boxing combos when he wants to. Great performance against Muslim Salikov. Put him down as well. Before that, beat Wellington Turman, who had improved massively under the tutelage of Alex Pereira. So I am going to lean towards Randy Brown getting himself a TKO win. I think he'll get 2 straight TKOs in a row with his hands. Much different. He has a much better range to play with his hands than Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos does. So I'm going to trust in him in the boxing in this matchup. We move on. Jailton Almeida versus Alexandr Romanov. Now, can I ask you guys a question in general? You know how certain fighters in the UFC get sat out on the sidelines for like a year, and they're like, I ain't been offered no matchups, and the UFC don't even offer them matchups, and the UFC basically stalls out their career, and you know, some fighters get terrible matchups. What the fuck does Jailton Almeida have to do to be treated badly by the UFC? What more does he have to prove for him to be treated badly by the UFC? He has stunk out every fucking performance he's pretty much had. Tried to do the same thing against Curtis Blades at UFC 299, a blockbuster pay-per-view. That was stopped by Curtis Blades hammer fisting him in the side of the head. You're keeping him active? You were going to give him Volkov a jump up the rankings? What the fuck does he have to do to prove to you guys that he hates this sport? I don't understand why the UFC's treated him so nice. He's going to beat Romanov. Romanov's a fat fuck at heavyweight. I'm in better shape than Romanov. I haven't done a day of training since I went to South Africa. I'm being genuinely serious. I am in way better shape than Romanov, and I haven't touched a fucking weight in 5 months. What is going on at heavyweight? Why are they morbidly obese? These are the problems we need answers to. 6'2", 264, cutting to make heavyweight. What are we doing here, man? I'm going to side with Jailton Almeida, tossing this fat fuck around like a big slab of fucking pork in the fucking cage. That's what I'm going to say. So I'm going to say Jailton Almeida ragdolls this fat boy, and this fat boy ain't going to have the energy to keep getting back up or keep progressing in the exchanges. So I'm going to go with Jailton Almeida. There you go. Why are they keeping him active? Honestly, after he lost to Blades, I would have been like, okay, let's have an assessment of this guy's style. PFL can fucking have him. That's what I genuinely would have done to Jailton Almeida after that Blades performance. We finally got a reason. Blades just beat his ass. He's better than Almeida. We don't have to worry about PFL having this guy that could have been the heavyweight world champ. He's just been fraud checked. Get fucking rid of him before he improves. You know what I mean? But no. They're bringing him back 3 months later. At least ice him out a bit. You know? We don't need Jailton Almeida till December maybe. You know what I mean? What's the rush? Why does he have to be on every card? Get rid of him. No offense. He's on the sauce anyway. He wins. He wins. Romanov's fat and fucking fat. He's a great grappler, though. He's got good grappling credentials, but he is just a fat fuck. He's like the guy that ate Nathaniel Wood. That's kind of what he looks like. We move on. Kevin Holland versus Michal Oleksiejczuk. Now, I was going to go with Kevin Holland. But, dum 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 na 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 dum 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 na 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 na. Michal Oleksiejczuk. He's been to the hood. You know what I'm saying? We're looking at hood Michal Oleksiejczuk here. And you know what? I think he beats Kevin Holland at 185. I'm going to say it. I'm becoming hood now through Michal Oleksiejczuk. Jesus, what am I saying? I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. Good fellow chaps. Sorry. Michal Oleksiejczuk's going to win. I reckon. Yeah, I think he wins. Kevin Holland just don't seem to have the snap in his shots anymore. I like Kevin Holland, but I'm not seeing the same guy. Maybe it's the cut to welterweight that's doing it to him. But at middleweight, man, I like Michal Oleksiejczuk here. I didn't like him in his debut against Mikel Perez. Maybe this will be aged badly, and maybe he will get hurt to the body and all of a sudden go down in a fucking... I don't even know. I'm worried about this pick. What have I done? Why have I picked Michal Oleksiejczuk? I'm not sure. I just think Holland won't finish him at 185. That's what I think. I don't think he'll finish him at 185. It's a very short notice fight for Holland. I think 185 massively benefits Michal Oleksiejczuk. He's going to have a weight advantage. And I'm going to say this as well. He could just go out there and out-grapple Kevin Holland. That needs to be mentioned about Michal Oleksiejczuk's game. He has a very underrated grappling game. Oh, thank God I actually came up with that out of nowhere because now I feel a lot better about this pick. He's good grappling. Really good. Maybe not against Mikel Pereira, who's got really fast twitch takedown defense in round one. And, you know, Chidi Njokwani beat him up eventually in that fight. Cody Brundage, though, tried to grapple with him. Michal Oleksiejczuk turned that shit around, reversed him, and beat the shit out of him in that fight. You know what I mean? He's got good grappling. He has got good grappling. And we even saw that in his fight against... he got ragdolled by Jimmy Crute, which made me think Jimmy Crute was going to be a world champ. But we did see it against Khalil Roundtree back in the day. He was able to ragdoll him. So he can if he wants to. And I think at 185, I would estimate Holland is probably cutting from about 190 to make weight at 185. Maybe even he's just walking around at 185. I think Michal's probably going to be cutting from 200. He probably was in shape, looking for a fight. I wonder if anything falls out on any of these huge blockbuster cards. I want to get back on there because I didn't really take any damage against Pereira. Hurt to the body, choked out. You could have been concussed, you know what I mean? So I'm going to go with Michal Oleksiejczuk. I think he stayed ready. He's been in America, so that shows that he's staying ready because we had those pictures of him in the hood. And I'm going to go with hood Michal Oleksiejczuk here. I'm going to go with hood Michal Oleksiejczuk. Mixing up, but also being able to maybe put some damage down on the feet as well. I'll go with him. I just don't trust Holland's grit anymore, man. Holland seems to take fights with like a great understanding that if he loses, not really much will happen bad. Whereas Michal's probably going to get beaten up at home if he ever goes back to Poland after losing to a guy like Holland, if you know what I'm saying. I'm joking. I'm going to go with Michal Oleksiejczuk, though. I think he's got more drive here. We move on. Sean Strickland versus Paulo Costa. And this is, of course... Paulo Costa's Irish brother, Paulo Costa, which we're talking about here. No. I'm going with Sean Strickland, man. There was a part of me that wanted to pick Paulo Costa, but I swear to fucking God, if he throws that straight right hand and head kicks Strickland behind it, that's the only reason I want to pick Costa to win, you know. Because Strickland is a parry-heavy fighter. And I hate doing this because whenever I pick an underdog, I always do it based on a move or based on a technique or based on a weakness and a strength that perfectly align. When I pick Ilya to put down Volk, and that's why he'll win. Yeah, I mean, even I said decision. I said he would consistently put down Volk with a right hand over the top of his lead, which is exactly what the shot that he put him down with. Edwards over Usman. You know, you pick these guys and you pick, okay, you can do this, and Usman's really weak at this, or Paulo Costa's got a really good right hand to a head kick, and Strickland does parry heavy, but Costa has the ability to back Strickland up in order for that head kick to be thrown in the first place, which Israel Adesanya can't do because he's a pussy-ass bitch. He fights on the back foot, Israel Adesanya, never takes a step forward in his entire career. I think he tried to take one step forward against Yoel Romero once upon a time, and that ended real quick in the first round. He got hit once and gave that shit up for the rest of his career. Israel Adesanya's a backing up, skittish, grow a boob, and all of a sudden finish Costa with one knuckle, despite Costa eating all of Romero's shots for the best part of 15 minutes, just the fight before it. That's the type of guy he is. With Costa, though, he can back up Strickland, and he can try out those head kick combinations. And I'm saying this about Costa right now. He always lands it on fighters under 6'2". He always lands that head kick. He landed it on Vettori. Vettori eats it. He landed it on Yoel. Yoel eats it. He landed it on Whittaker. He even landed it on someone else as well. There's many people that he's landed this combination on, but they eat it. The wheel kick he landed on Whittaker. I don't think Strickland's going to get wheel kicked. And I do think that Strickland's going to win. So I'm going to go with Strickland to win this fight by TKO in the later rounds. Paulo Costa, we've seen him out effectively jabbed and straight right-handed before. And I think that Strickland can trick him into enough exchanges to where he can put him away. I don't see Strickland as the type of fighter to get hurt by body shots. I'm going to see if I can delete something from my storage in the middle of this video, because I'm running out of storage. But either way, Sean Strickland, I think, wins this fight for sure. I don't trust in Paulo Costa at this point late in his career to really be pulling off the big upset win that we're going to need from him here. You know, I don't like that at all. I think Strickland's going to be able to deal with the pressure. And I think if you can deal with a Jared Cannonier effectively trying to walk you down, or at least not get finished by it, Costa can maybe do that a bit more dangerously than Cannonier, even though he doesn't have any finishes, so maybe not. But he can't keep it up as much as Cannonier can. You know what I mean? He can't keep it going into the 4th and 5th round. He slows down a lot. I think I'm going to go with Sean Strickland here. I'm going to say Sean Strickland wins this fight, TKO, round 4 or 5 on Paulo Costa. Maybe Costa complains about the stoppage, but it's one of them ones. It's going to be a Strickland-looking finish. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to go Sean Strickland here. I trust in him. Maybe ride out a dangerous first 2 rounds, start to cruise into it in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. I'm going with him. Can't trust Costa, man. He's just too inconsistent. Sometimes he looks great, but then other times, looks shit. And Strickland, there's a world where one extra judge gives him that win against Duplessis, and everyone's acting like this guy's the best middleweight we've ever seen. You know what I mean? That's how quickly the narrative can change in MMA. One judge deciding this or that can make someone a washed-up bum that's going to lose to Costa, or, man, this guy's about to set a legacy at middleweight. You know what I mean? So I'm going to go Sean Strickland winning this fight. We move on. Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier, man. I hope he wins. Everyone's rooting for Dustin Poirier. I completely understand, and I am in absolute agreement with you all. I really also hope that Dustin Poirier can pull this one off. I don't think he does. I really don't think he does. I think he's going to lose. I think he's going to lose, and I think he's going to lose very badly in round 1 with absolute fucking ease. That's my take. I think Islam Makhachev, I'm going to predict it right now. He will guillotine Makhachev, and Makhachev will Von Flue choke him the fuck out through that guillotine. Even if he doesn't latch up the guillotine, instinctively, he will look to cover that head with his armpit, and it will leave his arm in a position to either get arm triangled or Von Flue choked. So I'm going to go with either one of them, because even when Poirier, doesn't go for the guillotine, his arm is still like above someone's head as he goes to land on the canvas. It's like he loves the guillotine so much that even when he's not going for it, his hand is like, I don't know, his right arm is like fucking the Green Goblin mask speaking to him. You know what I mean? Do it, Dustin. And he's just like, no, please, as he's getting ragdolled by Habib. by Khabib. I did run out of space. Either way, we're continuing though. It's like his right arm doesn't want to get an underhook. It doesn't want to frame and give himself some height to maybe get his hips free from a takedown. It automatically lands in that position. So I am leaning towards an arm triangle or a Von Flue choke from Islam Makhachev. I think it would be like almost biblical for him to like Von Flue choke Dustin Poirier through the guillotine. That would be insane. But I'm going to go with arm triangle. I think Poirier will end up in that position with his arms high, Makhachev's head under his armpit, and Makhachev will sort of like work his way round to get that arm triangle. So I'm going to say Von Flue or arm triangle choke for Islam Makhachev. But something else I wanted to mention that I actually did end up mentioning before the video got cut off. Islam Makhachev's stand-up's looking tidy recently, man. It has been. And you want to know why? He don't go forward no more. And that's good for him. Sometimes he does, but now he kicks. Dude, he's changed his whole striking game, and I might do a whole video on it. He used to throw punches, bolting forward, thinking he was Khabib, where, like, I don't know, he's so good at grappling that he don't even have to be good on the feet, and he can just be an absolute tard on the feet like Khabib was, swinging like a maniac and pressuring people backwards so he can eventually get the takedowns. He learned the mistake. He got caught by Adriano Martins that a lot of people think is Alejandro Pantoja. It's not. I think it's a meme based on what Brendan Schaub said, but his striking game has completely changed. He used to go forward throwing punches, and that's where a guy like Poirier is going to catch you the same way he did Benoit Saint-Denis. That's not who Makhachev is anymore, man. He never leads with punches. He's a counter puncher almost exclusively. He'll lead with elbows. He'll lead with a head kick, a front kick to the body, a heavy body kick. He doesn't do what he used to do anymore. And I think if he did, he could get caught by Poirier. But now, I'm just worried for Poirier, man. I think Makhachev's a lot better, tidier on the feet, much better striking defense than he used to have. Poirier does do the step through into the same hand combination. So he'll throw the lead and then step through with the right and throw the right hand, or how does he do it? He almost like throws the right hand, steps through with the right as he's throwing the right hand with his right leg, and then blasts the straight left. That's how you can catch Makhachev on the back foot. That's how he caught Khabib on the back foot. And that's actually how Volk caught Makhachev as well, with the shifts that he does, where he steps through and throws. Then Makhachev's like, oh, I'm out of danger. And then bang, he gets caught by something. I don't think Poirier is going to be able to pull that off, because when he does do that shift, his hips get very square. Very, very square. When he does step through with shots, his hips square up. And this is something I want to talk about with Poirier. His hips. Pause. No Jones. This guy's hips are destroyed. Not after a night with Jones. I'm saying this. This guy's hips are destroyed, dude. He had a hip replacement. In the middle of his career against Nate Diaz. And no one even like brings it up. This dude hasn't thrown a kick properly in about 4 years? Since he was supposed to fight Nate Diaz, I believe at UFC 230, that was supposed to be at. He pulled out, had hip operation. And I don't like that for him, because he hasn't got that Fiziev or the Tsarukian ability, or the... What is another guy that... Volkanovski does the same thing. When they swivel their hips, they're like a gyro. You know what I mean? When Volkanovski, like, he'll get his legs high and he'll swivel his hips round. And it will like base him down again with both his feet touching the ground. And he can start working out of it. Armand Tsarukian does that as well. His defense on one leg, single leg defense, takedown wise, is amazing because of his flexibility in his hips. And because he can swivel them. And you saw that in the Gamrot fight as well. They were both just chucking their hips higher than the other one. And swiveling it to face the ground. So their knees face the ground. Poirier doesn't have any of that. He can't swivel his hips. He must be the goofiest looking dancer you've ever seen. He's got no hips, and he's never been able to throw a kick properly since then. Someone in my chat a while ago said, Poirier's got really nasty knees up the middle. You got to watch out for him. And I said, no, he doesn't. When has Poirier ever thrown nasty knees up the middle? Never. And I was thinking back, like, what does this guy think? Oh, he thinks those were knees from Poirier. I'm talking about when he like hits Gaethje with a knee. That's meant to be him throwing a body kick or a head kick, you know. He can't turn his hips. That's why I'm worried about Dustin Poirier here. He's been forced through injury to have to keep his hips square. The only way of him beating Makhachev and catching Makhachev isn't on the counter, because Makhachev doesn't do that anymore unless he's uncharacteristically aggressive here. So he has to shift and like step through to catch Makhachev and continue an exchange. That's going to leave open a double leg. Is Makhachev going to get KO'd by a reactionary uppercut to a takedown at 155? You don't see that. So I'm going to go with Makhachev, man. I'm going to go with him getting a takedown. I think they'll scrap a bit. They'll go back and forth on the feet. They'll be throwing some shots. Poirier might touch him here or there. Makhachev will throw a lot of kicks to the body and the legs of Poirier, maybe land a few of those. Then around the midway point of the round, Poirier will get aggressive, try and make something happen. Makhachev will reactionary, get over underhook, turn around Poirier, push him up against the cage, trip him, take him down. Poirier might pop back up for a second. Makhachev will get him down again, and then he will get on top. Poirier's arm will be over the top of Makhachev's head, and he will navigate round into an arm triangle or a Von Flue choke. So that's what I'm going to go with. Islam Makhachev, round 1. Thank you for watching. Toodle Pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.